The very first thing you want to do is you want to hit the open E string, the 6th string, the top one, and reaching behind the nut of the guitar right here with your finger or 2 fingers or your thumb or whatever you prefer, push in to approximately a whole step and then slowly release it. You do that a few times for great effect, to great effect, and then we start right into the main riff, which is all power chords. I won't use any tab on the screen for this because it's so easy to play, and I'll just kind of walk you through the different bits. So Tony plays the initial riff, the signature riff, all with power chords. And I'm starting on the 7th fret on the top string, and of course making the standard power chord shape. So I've got my index finger on the 6th string, 7th fret, and my ring finger on the 9th fret on the next string. And using your first finger as the marker, we're moving from 7 to 10, hitting 10 again and sliding up to 12, a whole step. And then once you get there, strike it again. So we've got and then we move all the way up to the 15th fret, again using the index finger as your marker. So I'm sliding from 15 to 14, back to 15, back to 14, and back to 15. Tony does not complete that riff. He goes ending at 15 before he dives back down to the next power chord. And then we play the riff across the top string by itself, just the 6th string. It's the same frets, 7, 10, 12, 15, 14, etc. The easiest way to remember this, I always tell my students, is when Ozzy is not singing, you play it as power chords. When Ozzy is singing, you play it as single notes and it just doubles his voice. Okay, the difference in the riff, again, we're playing 7, 10, 12, etc., is that when you get to the 15th and the 14th fret with that slide, Tony does include the full riff. If you remember at the power chords, we went stopping at 15 before we moved back down to play 10 to 12. But here he actually finishes it, 15, 14, 15, 14, 15, 14. So slowly I'm going 7 to 10, hitting 10 again and sliding to 12, and then hitting 12 again. And I'm doing that all with my first finger, but it's such an easy riff. Feel free to mosh it up and do whatever you want. And then I have a tendency to do the slides at the 15th fret using my 3rd finger, because I think it just makes it a little bit more conducive to get back to 10 for the... And then of course, as I said, when Ozzy's not singing, so moving to the next riff in the song, we have this. on the 7th fret on the 6th string, the top string, and I'm using my 3rd finger, your ring finger. 2 strikes. And then moving to the A string, the 5th string, I'm using my index finger, and it's a very slight subtle bend. And then back to the 7th fret on the top string. Then it's 6, 5, with 3 strokes of the pick. Then it's an open E string, top string, 4th fret. Back to the 5th fret on the top string for 2 strokes of the pick. Then using your 2nd finger, walk back to 6. And that's the riff, and then it loops around. And on the 3rd go around, you stop right there. And then it returns to the main theme of the song, complete with the power chords, the single notes, everything. And Ozzy sings another verse, of course, and then we move into the next section of the song. And we've got a power chord at the 12th fret, and we're going to move from 12 to 10 on the top 2 strings as usual, and we just hold those out. Okay, so let's talk about that riff right there. We've got the power chords moving from 12 to 10, which is easy enough. And then we've got a power chord again at the 7th fret, which is the first power chord that we started out with. You want to strike that twice. And then single notes, top string 7th fret to 10. You can also use your ring finger for that if you prefer, but it's nice to use all 4 fingers. 7th fret top string, 10th fret top string, and then 7th fret, 5th string, your A string. Then from the note you're on, 7, 8, 9, walking straight up with your fingers. And then the same thing on the next string, the D string. And that's the riff. And you run back through all the bits and pieces again, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with the song, and you can reference the actual recording for the arrangement, but it's all pretty easy to hear. Now, the second time through, when you play that riff, of course it goes to the riff that introduces the solo. And then he goes off and solos his brains out, okay? So this riff is pretty cool. You're coming off of this. Okay, from right there at the 9th fret, you move up to the 11th fret on the same string, and it's a descending blues scale. 11 to 9, then moving to the string above it, the A string, it's 11, 10, 9. Then using your first finger, move down to the 7th fret. And then pop up to the top string, the 6th string. Strike strike it twice, slide to 9, and pick it again. And that's the riff. And then, of course, he goes into the solo. The solo is not included in this lesson. I always encourage my students to kind of do their own thing on certain songs, and this is definitely one of them. But the scale that Tony is using is the C sharp minor pentatonic. You guys probably already know that scale, but that's basically the scale that Tony uses to jam out on. And then at the end of the solo, he kind of uses this to cue the band back into the tune. And so forth and so on. I'm sure you've all heard the song many times. Okay, and when they come back to this riff in the song, and the drums start going crazy and everything, and Tony jams out a little bit more on some lead playing, but then he introduces the riff that closes out the song. And I love that part. I think it's really cool. So what I'm doing is I'm on the 7th fret on the 5th string, the A string. Put your first finger in place. So you want to plant your index finger on the 5th fret so that it's already there. Strike the string, do a pull off. So it's really important to have that finger there. You don't want to try to roll it like that. You want really good technique when it comes to hammer-ons and pull-offs. So we're pulling off from 7 to 5, coming back to 7, and picking that note. And then this is really cool. Your index finger at the 5th fret again, and we do a hammer-on and a pull-off. So 5th fret, strike the string, hammer up to 7, and without another stroke of the pick, pull off. Pull off by flicking your finger down toward your feet. And then we move to the 4th fret on the 4th string, the D string. 4, 5, 4, 5. And then we do that same hammer-on pull-off lick between those two notes. So you're striking the string at the 4th fret. Without striking again, hammer up to 5 and then pull off to sound 4 again. And then 5th fret on the A string with your 2nd finger. More or less. Tony doesn't always play that lick 100% each time, but that's the basic lick that he's playing, and it sounds really cool. And you just end it by playing 7, 5, 7 on the 5th string. There you go, Iron Man from Black Sabbath. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you did, please subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next lesson.